Well, welcome to this edition of Chef's Chat. We've got Justina. Hello, Justina. Give us a wave. There we go. And we've also got Claire today. Give us a wave, Claire. And I'm going to be your host today. And my name's Alex. Unfortunately, Ollie couldn't join us today, so he'll be with us with the next one. Now, this week we've been set a sort of a shopping, creative, Valentine's-y type challenge. Now, the chefs were all given £7 to spend to create a Valentine's themed meal, but we don't know what we bought, so this will be a surprise. And we were all sent to different supermarkets. Now the thing is, it's £7 in total, so it's not per portion. So we had that extra bit of a challenge for our chefs this week. So without further ado, let's go over to Glasgow to Claire. And what did you buy? Where did you shop? And what do you plan to cook?
Well, chefs, I went to Lidl, Scotland. So Lidl is a high quality discount store and they use a lot of Scottish produce, and we've just come to the end of Veganuary, so a lot of things are out of stock. So I had to really think out of the box for my budget. So starting off, I bought some block tofu. I'll explain why I bought this later. I've got some fruit and veg smoothie mix, some vegetables, which is carrots and beetroot. I've bought the vacuum packed beetroot. Ain't nobody got time to be making their own puff pastry at Valentine's, so I've got some ready-made puff. I've got some ambient soy milk, straight from the Garden of Eden, and apple, and something that I have never seen before that I'm not sure if any of you guys as fellow chefs have seen is pink onions. So these are a little bit milder and delicate in flavour, and I thought they were very, very pretty, a nod to the colour of Valentine's Day. So as you can see, that £7 these days doesn't go that far.
And what do you plan to make with all this?
Okay, so with my my frozen smoothie mix, I'm going to deconstruct that into the components. So I'm going to take the vegetables and make them into puree. So the vegetables contained within here is kale and spinach. So that's going to bring a bit of colour and vibrancy to my dish. So I'm going to make a tart, and it's going to be a caramelised onion tart along with what was going to be whipped feta, but being Veganuary, the vegan feta was sold out, so I had to think out of the box. So I'm going to use the tofu and the soy milk along with some store cupboard herbs and spices and some garlic powder, whip that up, and then as a garnish I'm going to pickle the beetroot with some store cupboard vinegar along with some pickled carrots. And I would say that always have some fresh herbs grown on your windowsill because they are virtually free for you. So a nice garnish around the outside of the plate there. So sticking with the pastry and really thinking out of the box here, I'm going to make a tarte tatin. So I managed with my budget because Lidl don't particularly sell a lot of onions and veg loose. I had to buy a whole bag of onions, so I'm also going to do a caramelised onion puree with that. So I'm going to take the fruit from my smoothie mix along with the apple and the pastry and make that tarte tatin, and I'm going to serve that along with a sorbet. So using the fruit in here, I'm going to puree that down with some sugar, and then really, really thinking out of the box. This was such a challenge because Veganuary is over. Lidl have virtually no vegan dairy, so there was no soy cream, there was nothing that could be really unctuous to cut through the fruit. So I'm going to make my own cream here. So again, really, really had to think hard about this. I'm going to use the remainder of my tofu, my soy, and then some store cupboard ingredients, some vanilla, some potato starch or corn flour thickening starch, and some sugar, and whip it up. So heat that up, then chill it, and then really whip it with a balloon mixer to make a cream. So I would have my fruit tarte tatin along with that whipped cream with hopefully a nice chefy quenelle of my apple and mango sorbet. So that's me. So it really did take a lot of thinking out of the box to get something Valentine's worthy for my sweetheart. So that's me.
Wow, that's absolutely sounds amazing.
Thank you.
Just to remind everybody that's watching this, this is the first time that we've known what each other has bought and what we're gonna make. And I don't know how you're feeling, Justina, but we might just end it here because that's absolutely amazing. But did you go over budget? Do you have your receipt?
No, so I was 22 pence under budget with mine.
Well done.
So what I wanted to do was on top of my savoury tart, was as a contrast of crunch, I wanted to put some walnuts, but I ran out of budget for that. So then I thought I could use some peanuts and not put much salt in the filling, but the peanuts were too expensive. And it wasn't until I left afterwards, one of my friends says to me, "You do know that Lidl sell loose nuts? You could have bought a handful of pistachios or cashews." So that, with my spare 20 odd pence, I would have bought some nuts to make a nut crumb just to give nice contrast. And that would just be a small garnish just on top of the tart.
Fantastic. These little things do make such a difference in terms of presentation and mouthfeel and stuff like that. That really does sound. I'm flabbergasted. Yes. Okay. Well done. That sounds fantastic. Yeah. Well done. Right then. Moving on. Let's see what Justina. What did you buy? Where did you go? And what do you plan to cook?
Well, it's hard to compete with Claire. Now I feel like my version is like fast food Valentine's, but I went to Heron Foods. So let's do a reveal. What did I buy? So I found real life cheddar. So that was only over £1. Then I bought some mushrooms. So it's very difficult to find fresh produce, so I was really happy to find mushrooms, but the small packet was £1, so it's not particularly cheap for mushrooms. Then I bought tofu, marinated tofu, 69p. That was the only box left. There was no price. I chanced it. I went to the till and it says 69p. Like, perfect. Fits in my budget. Then I got potatoes. So that's also £1. Then I bought this, which is a kind of sneak peek what I'm making. It's £1.79, so it's not too expensive, but has inside sort of like a base for sauce, so you can make your own cheese if you add plant milk in there, and then you have 6 tortilla wraps and seasoning as well. So now saying 6, I could actually make this dish for 3 people or really hungry 2 people, but it's just, as Alex mentioned, our budget is more to make the dishes and buy ingredients. And then for dessert, I have yogurt. So that's also dairy-free yogurt, and it is with mango. So we are allowed to use store cupboard ingredients such as pasta and rice. So I was planning to make for dessert, making rice pudding and topping up with mango yogurt, mixing in a little bit and putting some on the top as well. I was trying to buy some dates possibly to do my dessert, and I thought, oh, it would be amazing to dip dates in almond butter and drizzle of chocolate, really sort of small bitey food. But it's so expensive and I couldn't find any almond butter at all. So yeah, I stuck with fajitas, and I would chop up my tofu, which is already marinated. In here, obviously, it has ingredients, what you have to do, really nice and simple. And then I would chop mushrooms as well. So marinate them all together, frying them in the pan. Make sure there's not a lot of juices coming out of my mushrooms. And then I will add my vegan cheddar on the top, and then having all in there. So to save electricity, I'm doing the fajitas as well. They all going in the oven to have a little grill. And then I'm using my new potatoes as a side, sort of chop them up. I don't know if avocado would be considered as the store-cupboard ingredient because I just have them randomly in my fruit bowl, but that's something I could put inside. Yeah, and I have saved a lot, but I spent just 3 pence under £7.
Well
I have
done.
to admit, there was some Alpro soy milk for 29p. And I was like, I have to have this. And by the time I'm going to the till, they said, your final is just over £7. I'm like, could you please buy the Alpro milk? I really wanted to have that, but unfortunately, there was no budget for that. Yeah,
Wow,
that's me.
no, that's another fantastic menu. Some clever shopping there, Justina. Yeah, using sort of packets that are sort of partially done. Really, you know, you can reinvent them, and it also saves a bit of time and obviously less cooking time. So that might be something so you can spend more time with your family, your friends, your partner. And also maybe save a few pennies or pounds in terms of power for cooking. So yeah, another fantastic menu and clever shopping. So over to me then. Now I didn't go to one of the traditional discount ones. I went to Waitrose. Yes, I went to Waitrose, and I thought this was going to be quite tricky. Sorry about the rustling. So I'll tell you what I bought. I bought chickpeas. I bought an onion. I bought an aubergine. I bought some flour. If you can see these things. I also bought an orange type thing. A pepper. Balance that on there. A carrot, a potato, tomato, and walnuts. So maybe you could have some of my spare walnuts. And I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. And here's my receipt to prove. I don't know if you can see that, but yes, I was under by a few pennies. It came to £6.92, so 8p saving. So this is what I bought, and what I plan to make is kind of a sort of a meze tapas type thing. So I'm going to start off with a little. I know it's February, and the thought of chilled soup really doesn't appeal. However, I love it, and as a little amuse-bouche, a little thing to sort of set the theme, and just get us going. I'm going to make a little chilled soup with the tomato and a little bit of the pepper and a small amount of the onion. Now, I made this a week ago or so ago, and all you do is put it into the blender and blend it, and it's done. And as it is, it's absolutely delicious. But if you wanted it warm, you can have it warm. But it's just going to be served as a shot. So that'll be made ahead of time, but that's just going to be made as a shot. You could put chili in there if you wanted as well. Then I'm going to make, now I'm not even going to pronounce this. I will embarrass myself and any speakers of Spanish or Portuguese. But it's a dish I learned quite some time ago using aubergine. So I'm going to use part of the aubergine for this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to thinly slice it. Now, you don't need to peel it. Some people do. And then I'm going to soak those slices in soya milk. So that's my store cupboard thing, some soy milk. And then I'm going to dip it into some of the flour and deep fry it. So I will need to have some oil for deep frying, which I've got just over there. You can't see it, but it's over there. And then you deep fry them, and that's when they come out, they're like little waffles. And then you put a bit of sugar on them, or you put some golden syrup on them, and a tiny bit of salt. And if you want to put paprika on, you can. And if you've not had them before, really do give them a try. They're absolutely delicious, and they sort of melt in the mouth. And it's a real lovely talking point, because people are quite divided about aubergines, so I'm not so keen on them. But this is sort of like a sweet thing, but it's a Portuguese Spanish dish, and it really is lovely. So that's slightly sweet. And then the main course, what I'm going to do is make a sort of a bit of a meze, if you like. So our favourite chickpeas. So I'm going to make some hummus with that. Now, I'm not going to put tahini in there. I have got tahini in the cupboard, but but I didn't want to use too much sort of store cupboard things. Now, I have made it before without tahini, and it still is lovely. So you put a little bit of stock in there, and a bit of garlic and spices and things. It's lovely with that. And I'm not going to use all of the chickpeas. I'm just going to use about half of them. So I've got that. I'm also going to make with the potato. I'm going to use half of it with the rest of the tomato to do a fierce patatas bravas at the side. So I'm going to do that, and with the other bit of potato that's left, I'm going to slice them into little matchsticks and then deep fry them. So there's sort of little crunchy bits to have with that. Now, I'm also going to make some bread. Now, this is the point about getting this, because I thought this is going to be fairly flexible. So with the plain white flour, if you look on our website, there's a great recipe for simple flatbreads. If you just type in simple flatbreads on the website, you'll see it, and it really is very, very easy. So I thought I'd make some flatbreads with the flour, and that means I can just, well, whoever it is that joins me on the evening can dip into the hummus and stuff. Now, with the other half of the aubergine, so I'm going to use half of that sort of little nibble thing. I'm going to roast it with the remains of the pepper and also half of the walnuts to make I think it's Turkish, called mamara, and it really is absolutely delicious. So it's got sort of a nutty taste, taste and flavour, and also there's a nice amount of protein in the walnuts. So I'm not going to use all of those. I've also got and carrot for little sort of slicey, dippy things. And then with any bits that are remaining, I'm just going to whip up a tiny little salad with the remains of the chickpeas, any bit of the pepper, and tiny bit of tomato, and a little bit of the onion left. So that's the plan for the main part. And then for the dessert, now I will need soy milk. So I did have to have a bit of soy milk anyway for the you can use oat milk either way for the aubergine dish. I'm going to make some pancakes. Now this is sort of like a crepe, Suzette. So so that would be with the orange, but I'm not going to use any booze in there. So I'm going to make a sort of like an orange sauce with the zest of the outside. Zest isn't ever on the inside, you know what I mean. The outside of that, and also a little bit of juice, and then make the pancakes with those, and then sort of roll them up, and then have a garnish with some slices of orange on them, and then just to finish off and be a little bit chefy, to have with a coffee or maybe a glass of wine. I've still got some walnuts remaining, so what I'm going to do is melt some sugar and dip them in, and what happens is that they get coated in this lovely caramel sort of outside, and you can make them ahead of time, and they just sort of crunch, and it's just a nice thing sort of to bookend the meal. So that's what I'm planning to do, and yes, just about in budget. So that was my plan. Now, unfortunately, Ollie isn't going to be able to join us today, so we won't find out what he was going to make. So that's a shame, but never mind. So that was our challenge, and that's what we did this week. So more generally, Claire, how did you get on, and what challenges did you find with this exercise?
Well, I was actually going to do crepe Suzette as well, and when I had costed the oranges, they aren't on special offer till next week. So what I would say is keep an eye out on offers, and you can always change your menu, whether you're a lunch club or a care home. Things like the block tofu, when they're on special offer for Veganuary, they've got a 3-month shelf life, so like stock up on them. Things like the soy milk, if you buy the ambient product rather than the stuff that's in the chill cabinet, it's about half the price. So compared to something like Minor Figures oat milk, which would do the same job, this is a third of the price. So just being sensible and thinking, what am I actually going to use this for? So a good chefy tip, if you yourself or your service users don't actually like the flavour of soy milk, if you're using it in a savoury dish, you can impart different flavours using things like bay leaves, garlic and onions, like you would do if you were preparing a bechamel, chef style. So that takes away that soy flavour that some people don't like. And then when I'm using it for sweet things, I can put in things like a little bit of maple or some vanilla or some like citrus fruit zest, like your orange or your lemon, and that will mask that soy flavour. And I think that's a great money saver if you think that something like Minor Figures is £1.35 for the standard, and this was 50p. And even the barista style Minor Figures retails at £2.35 in some stores. So look around and just compare and contrast them if you do have that option. I really would say like forward think. So something like the beetroot that's quite often on special offer, it doesn't have to be refrigerated. This is best before June. So you've got a really long shelf life. So if you do have the space to keep things, buy it when it's on special offer. And what I would say is looking at pickling and crunchies and things that will really elevate your dishes. And I quite often buy fresh herbs in a pot rather than in a bag, because quite often the recipe only calls for a couple of spoonfuls, and you might not have room in your freezer to like chop up and freeze with olive oil, the rest of them. So I really had to think out the box for this. But I think if you're an organisation that's feeding more than 2 people and you're doing it pro rata, you will be able to cost down your portion to £3.50. But if you are just cooking for yourself or cooking for a few people and you're buying individual ingredients like we have, really do shop around. So if I had the opportunity to go to perhaps Iceland and farm foods, I could have increased my produce but also reduced the cost. But not everybody is able to walk from store to store or has the opportunity to carry heavy bags back, particularly if you're an older person. You might have barriers to go into lots of different shops. And one thing that I really had to think about, so something that you can do to really elevate your dishes and make a bit of difference, is just think about the presentation. So if you were doing your tarte tatin, maybe look at cooking it in like an individual frying pan, so it's individual portions rather than cutting a slice off a larger one. But again, that depends if you have a pan. But if you are using a pan that's going in the oven, do make sure that the handle is suitable to go in the oven. So things like thinking of Valentine's Day, thinking of the presentation, could you use a dish that's a slightly different shape or size? Perhaps bringing in some colour, like the red and the pink onions that have just got that nod to romance and Valentine's. And something that I just happened to have, this was from Christmas cooking that I did with my nieces. Again, they were cheap as anything from the pound shop. It's heart-shaped cookie cutters and pastry slices. So it's ideal that you can just have that on top of your pastry, or even use it to do a little dusting of icing or cocoa as a decoration. So I think all these little things, when you're using budget ingredients, you can elevate your dishes and make it more than a special experience for you and your nearest and dearest.
Definitely. I mean, some great points there. I mean, particularly you were referencing if you could go to other supermarkets. Now, part of our challenge was we were just going to one. That was part of the game, if you like, for this occasion. But with caterers, they're also sometimes locked into specific suppliers. So that can be sort of an issue for people to get hold of particular products. But yeah, making things look lovely and a nod towards Valentine's is sometimes just is all that's needed. Thank you. And Justina, what challenges did you find in creating your menu? What would you maybe do differently next time? What advice could you offer?
I guess one of those most important bits, as Claire mentioned, we thought about veganuary, so surely there will be a lot of things in the shop available. But I'm gonna be honest, I didn't think much in advance. I knew that I was not gonna have a lot of fresh produce to choose from. So I went to the shop, I did a loop around, I realized there was barely anything, and I had to come up with something on the spot. Main consideration for myself was thinking about protein. So at first, when I did a first loop, I couldn't find the tofu. the freezer sections, which is quite a lot of freezers in Heron Foods, they didn't have vegan protein sources, so they had a lot of vegetarian items. So if someone's watching is catering for vegetarian, that is an easier option in that way. But unfortunately, there was no vegan options until I found in the corner of the shelf with the fresh produce, a small tub of tofu, and that was my win. And it's just one of those things I wanted to make, as I mentioned, the dates. I was thinking to have like a baked dessert, but then I looked at pastry, and all pastry in that shop, there was a very limited selection, and then it was all containing either dairy or eggs. So very limited, even though I thought I will be able to find loads of different things, and bags were quite huge as well. So I thought, okay, I can buy this pack of potatoes, like chips. It's £2. Whilst now considering in my head, I was like, okay, if I buy small bag of fresh potatoes for £1, it squeezes into my budget. But it doesn't make a lot. So if you are shopping for someone, perhaps you're catering for a lunch club and you are catering for larger audience, sometimes it will be more worth it buying a big bag, which turns out to be cheaper than a small bag of fresh produce. And also, there's no shame of buying frozen and tinned ingredients because they're still nutritious. So don't think that, oh, I should have bought everything fresh because it's somehow better, especially when you are working with tight budget, because it's one of those things that you have to really find what works best for you. I think a lot of shops nowadays, they show price match for example, Aldi or other cheaper shops. But if you try to find their own brand, so it would be much cheaper. So yeah, it was a bit of a challenge, a bit of thinking, what should I put back on the shelf, especially when you're on the spot at the till and there's a queue behind you, like, I'm over the budget. Can I get rid of? I think that was the item I can get rid of, which was interesting. I did enjoy the challenge. What about you, Alex?
Well, yes, well, some great advice there, and yeah, certainly touching on frozen and tinned. Yes, I mean, in terms of nutritional values, there's very little in between them. Sometimes with tinned, there might be salt in the water, or if it's fruits, then there might be added sugars to that. So that is something to look out for. But generally speaking, there isn't wild difference between all of those three. Fresh does come out on top, but yeah, it is a good point. So what challenges I did? Well. Yeah, I found it. I mean, I enjoyed the challenge, but I found it slightly frustrating because if you only have a budget of whatever to spend and you go into the shop, it's all very well saying, well, if I could buy a big bag of this and per portion it costs this amount, but if you've only got a certain amount to go in the beginning, then you're limited to buy sometimes more expensive items. So this bag of flat, which is all I need really, I don't need more than that, but if I was to buy, and this was 50p, but for like 79p, I could have got 3 times the amount. But my budget only, was limited, so I couldn't do that. Also, with the tomatoes, a 6-pack of tomatoes was about 86p, and I've got a confession, chefs. I did it twice. I confess, I did it twice. I went to Waitrose and I worked out what I wanted to buy, and I did this online. So I thought I'll plan it ahead of time rather than go and see what there's on discount. I'm like, I know what I need to get, because that's generally the good advice. Make a list and stick to it. Don't kind of get sucked into buy one get one free discount, all that sort of stuff. Generally, go and have something to eat before you go shopping as well. So anyway, so I worked it out on the internet what it was going to cost, and I was fine with that. And I bought all my ingredients, and I went to the till, and yes, rung them up. But I don't shop in Waitrose generally. And to buy single items, what you have to do, you can sort of see the label on there, you're supposed to weigh them out and then print out a label, and it'll tell you how much it is per item then. And I hadn't done that. So by the time I got to the till, and there's a queue behind me, naturally, and I put this through, and I'm like turning around looking for how do I scan a potato? And like the assistant said, well, you put it on there and you print it out. And of course, I'm then starting to feel a little flustered and self-conscious. So the first time I did it, it was over by about 70p. So I was like, in that time, you were saying, what can I put back? Nothing, I'll come back later, And that's what I did. I went back, and then I had to buy a smaller potato, an individual tomato, as opposed to a pack of 6. But I was even when I went through the second time, I was a little bit under budget. So I said to the assistant, can I leave this here for a moment? Because I had about 10p to spare for a carrot. So I went back to get a carrot. But yeah, it was a little bit frustrating with that. And I think that if you've got a smaller budget, you are discriminated against in a fashion, because you can't buy cheap stuff as individual items in the same way you can get a discount by buying a big thing. So that was kind of my frustration, but I did find it enjoyable, and I am looking forward to creating this. So we're going to wrap this up. So final thoughts from Justina, and then we'll have Claire, and then I'll wind up. Okay, so any final thoughts?
A lot of thoughts. I think people at home, they should do this for fun as well. See what they can get in the local shop. And we obviously would like to know, what are you able to get for £7? Our idea was cooking for 2. You can cook for more if you can, but I think the best thing is, as Alex said, eat before you go shopping. I also do recommend making some sort of plan A and plan B. What can you make before you set out? That sort of saves you a lot of time running around. Like I was running around trying to figure out what I'm gonna make from what I had in the shop. But the shop was really small. Obviously, if you have larger shops, you would spend a lot of time running around trying to gather ideas. So have 2 or even 3 dishes you could prepare with very basic ingredients you're most likely to find in your local shop, and write them on the list according to where the shopping items are. So I know my local Morrisons have vegetables, then they have fruit, and then they have fridges, and then at the end they have freezers. So when I write my list, I make sure it's very easy to read and easy to find, so I don't come back to the checkout and realize I left something hidden in the list. Yeah, that's my thoughts. What about you, Claire?
Some great planning and organisation there. Claire, thank you.
Oh yeah, I would totally agree with Justina. As I said, that I was on like plan C by the time I was running around Lidl this morning. So I had looked at apples, which had been in their end aisle, which were 50p last week, and then I thought about the oranges, but it turned out that the oranges from a planned crêpe Suzette was actually going to be like next week. So really thinking, like, what can I do? And I can remember the last conversation I had with Alex. Alex was like, don't forget frozen items, Claire. So that was where I went, and I had a look around for frozen fruit. There was loads and loads of frozen berries, but I wanted to have some green on my plate as well. And when I saw this fruit mix, I thought, that's got veg in it. That's absolutely perfect. So take your time to look at the deals. The deals are really, really well publicised. Check the dates for them. But if you are going to a major retailer, most often they'll have a loyalty card or an app which will give you further discounts on certain products as well. And if you've got, for example, the Lidl Plus app on your phone, it'll give you discount coupons when you shop, but it'll also signpost you to what is on offer that week. And planning, but definitely, as both other chefs were saying there, don't go to a shop like Lidl on an empty stomach, because you will be like, oh, look at that, look at that, look at that, and before you know it, you'll be like £8 over budget. But I would say that 3 of us have found that we've been like rushing around because this was a challenge. But if you are in a situation where you do have a limited budget, don't feel flustered and don't feel embarrassed to say to the checkout lady or guy, can you take this back for me? Can I substitute this? Oh, wait a minute, I need to go to the cash point. Can I leave this trolley here and come back for it? At the end of the day, the supermarkets still want your custom, and they have to accommodate people, whoever you are. I've done it before, where I've done a huge shop for a lunch club class, and I've went to get my credit card out my purse, and I haven't got my purse in my handbag, and it's been like a full trolley of food. So of course, like, I was absolutely embarrassed. I was sweating buckets. But the cashier was like, it's fine, we'll put the bags to the side, just come back when you're ready. So if you are doing something special, a little bit of planning and make sure you've got your money in your purse.
Very true, very true.
So what about you then, Alex?
Yeah, I think we've all been there with sort of pulling out the wallet and realising it's not there. But yeah, thank you. So, some good advice. Well, I would say planning is key, really. But as you both said, but have a backup plan. So if the stuff that's on discount, then it may be that's the thing to go for. Go to the discounted part of the supermarket. You know, you get sort of like the just coming to the end of its use by date, and sometimes you can get some really good bargains in there. Before you go shopping, check what you've got in. Because you might find that you've got things in the back of the store in your cupboard that you bought and you thought they were going to be really exciting, but you've just kind of for some reason overlooked them. So have a look in those before you go shopping. Also have a look on our website, because we've got some great recipes on there. All this stuff that we were talking about is stuff that we've kind of just sort of come up from the top of our heads, but I think the flatbread recipe is certainly worth looking, but we've got lots of other great recipes in there for cakes and celebrations and things. And there's a great recipe I made just the other day, which is an apple cake. It's really, really lovely, and it's not too expensive. But I would say thank you for watching, and thank you to the chefs for all the brilliant suggestions. And if you've not subscribed already and you'd like to, please do so, and we look forward to seeing you next time. So until then, take care. Bye bye.